So today I'll be doing a tutorial off of how to make these ears on a canine Therian mask. This is the back, this is the front. This piece is actually raised above this piece, there's just the fur separator. And this is what we're going to be making today in today's tutorial. Now the things you'll need is a sheet of EVA foam. I recommend at least 2, maybe 3. You're going to definitely need 2 squares of felt, and try to visually accommodate for how big you want the ear to be to make sure this felt is going to be bigger than your ending earpiece. You're also going to need a mask base so you can glue the ears on in the end, a hot glue gun, a marker. Make sure your marker does not, it'd be hard to see on this. It's going to be okay on all these because it's a darker color than all of these. I personally like using fabric scissors, but you can also just use normal scissors. And I highly recommend a piece of chalk. It's going to be so much easier when you need to trace and imprint stuff. Depending on how much chalk glue you use, you might need an extra stick or 2, but otherwise I wouldn't really worry about it. So let's start off with the tutorial. The first step is you're going to grab your mask and set it onto a piece of your EVA foam, only one of the pieces. And you're going to grab your marker, and you're just going to draw out the shape that you want. It's okay if it's really messy, as long as you can see the definite shape of whatever you want. This is the shape that I chose for my character. Now, I highly recommend drawing out the shape that you want your raised part for the ear to be. So this is how I want mine to be. Basically, if you're asking how to calculate it, I just kind of choose a spot and then I draw it down. There's no really way to explain it. Just draw it however you personally want the raised part to look. And then it's going to become raised in the near future. And then now from here, what you're going to do is remove the mask. And then you're going to grab your scissors and cut out this shape. Also a tip, if you want it to make sure it'll stay against your mask good, you can just trace around your mask right here onto the ear, and then you have this line of where to cut it more definitely. Now once you have your piece cut out and you're going to put it against your mask and make sure that's the shape you want. This could be for any animal, like, I don't know, Doberman, any large-eared dog, obviously because of the canine snout, but if you're making cat masks, same ear method. And now you're going to grab this and grab your hot glue gun. Of course, make it heated up. I just don't have it heated up at this moment. You're going to flip it over, and you're going to glue the entirety of the backside, and then glue it down wherever it fits, and do that, and then cut it out again, and then we'll regroup after you do that. Now, a little demonstration is you're going to flip this over, grab your hot glue gun, and then literally just put hot glue all over that bad boy. And then once it's fully hot glued, my hot glue is not fully warmed up yet, so it's not fully ready. But now you're just going to flip it over and smooth all the bubbles out, so you don't want any bubbles into your foam. And then you're done right here. Okay, I fully glued it off camera. Now with our regular scissors, not our fabric scissors, don't cut out foam with your fabric scissors. Now we're going to cut out all of this, just up and down like usual. Now, once you have this piece cut out, see it's doubled, so it's more sturdy and more thick, and it'll overall just look better once it's glued on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab this piece, and then we're going to re-grab our marker, and on our foam over here, this is why I usually say, sometimes people are out of foam by over here, that's why you usually want 2 pieces. You're going to grab this piece, and with your marker, you're just going to trace it out all around it, so then you have a carbon copy of this piece for the other ear. So you're going to flip it over, and then you're going to trace this out, and then you'll have both of your ears. Now once you have that traced out, we're going to grab our scissors and cut along and cut off all of this black piece. So cut close as you can, because when you trace this down, obviously it leaves a little bit of gappage right here for when you trace it, so we're going to cut off all this black on the outline. And now once you cut out this piece, you're going to glue it down and do the same exact thing you did with this ear so that it's doubled. So now that we have the 2 ears cut out and they look relatively the same, this is the hardest part, and this is when you're going to want to grab the chalk. So now that we have our chalk, we're going to grab our piece that has the outlines drawn in, and you're going to grab your chalk and you're going to go over the outlines pretty heavy with this piece of chalk. So when you imprint it, it'll show. So you're going to go all the way on the edges too, so all of it shows. And then once you do that, come back and press play. Now that you have everything chalk outlined, including the edges, you're going to grab a separate sheet of foam. Make sure that all of the pieces that have been outlined can still fit into the piece. And you're going to flip this over. It can take a bit of space, so you got to kind of be strategic with it. But then you're going to push it down and then push down hard. Really put some pressure into that. And that way, when you lift it up, it leaves a faint little outline for you to trace down. And you can see it's really faint on mine because I didn't put enough chalk. I should have put more, but it's okay because I can very slightly see it. And now we're just going to cut out this piece. And now once it's cut out, you can see that it fits almost perfectly over what we wanted, which is great. So this is a good shape for it. Of course, also it's EVA foam, so you can always bend it to whatever shape you want to better conform it at the end. But if there are little gaps like this where it doesn't fully cover, you're not going to notice it, so it's fine. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to mark this side. You don't have to do this, it's just for demonstration. I'm going to mark this side with a line, a little dot here, and this is going to be a little dot here, because these are the two pieces that when I'm gluing everything down, these two pieces are going to face each other. Now, we're going to grab this top side that doesn't have a dot, because it's not getting glued down, and that is the side that we're going to glue down. And so the dotted side points up. This is just to help better visualize. And so glue this piece down, and there's a special way to cut it. So once you glue it down, be sure to pay attention to that. Now once you're here and everything's glued down like good, what you're going to do is you're going to grab your scissors, except instead of just cutting it up and down, you're going to tilt your scissors to the side and then cut it out. So then it makes a good angled piece. So then when it's all cut out, it's going to slowly raise up instead of just one solid piece. And it's not really noticeable like crazy, but I personally think it's noticeable to me, so that's how I like doing it. But you can just cut it up and down and then tweak it later, but I find it easiest and fastest to just cut it sideways. You can already start to see it on the first layer. See, they're not perfectly even. This one's starting to regress a little bit, and that's how you want it to be. Especially on this end right here, it's a lot more regressed. And you're going to do the same method where, remember the dotted sides is going to be glued down, is going facing upwards, and you're going to glue this down again and cut it out the same exact way until instead of 2 layers, you have 4 layers. Now we're 4 layers in, as you can tell from the side, and you can really see the layerage difference. And it doesn't matter if it's real sharp like mine is. Once you have the felt on, it will be a lot smoother. So now the next step is, well, how am I going to make it for the opposite ear if I don't have this like on here? No need to worry. Now this is often where you need your second sheet of felt because all of this is taking up all of the pieces and you don't have anything left. So this is where it's often that you need your second piece, which no worries. But now all we're going to do is you're going to put chalk on this the same exact way and imprint it again the same exact way, except this time instead of building everything from dot to dot, it's going to be opposite so it can fit on this ear, because you see that's not going to work here, so we're going to have to just flip it over, but it's the exact same method so that it can fit on both ears so nicely. Like, look at that. It's beautiful. Now once you're here, you see you have the dot and then the dot again because you have this piece cut out, so it's going to fit here. So now you're going to do the exact same thing that you did with this piece and keep the dot side up at all times and grab your felt, and don't mind how chaotic it is. It's perfectly fine. So now you're just going to keep gluing it this way, always pushing the dot to the sky. Now is the time that if you see you have this piece also 4 layers, exact same way the other piece was, and now is the time that if you look at them and you're like, they're not alike, I just can't unsee it, you can do mild tweaks to them, but I wouldn't do anything too crazy because a lot of this layering, again, is going to get covered by the felt. The only main concern is if these edge pieces don't fade out like they should, in which you can literally just do an angular clip to them this way. So you have your scissors pointing down, and then you just clip it, and then you're good. Now from here, you're going to just grab these pieces where the dots are, and then So dot to dot, and you glue these pieces, dot to dot, glue these pieces down, and yeah. Now is one of the easier times, so you're gonna pick one of your ears after they're fully dry. I'm gonna do this one first, because we've been doing this one first for everything. And this is when you're gonna grab your fabric square. Just make sure that you have a good amount of excess. And then when we're gonna trim the excess, I'll mark it down with a marker so you can get an idea of how much I'm gonna cut. Because I do these a lot, so. So now what we're gonna do is grab this piece, and I'll mark this. So this entire raised piece right here, this is where we're gonna be gluing. Don't glue in this crevice in here, and don't glue any of this or the edges yet. We're just gluing along where I marked it right here. Now, once you put glue on it, what you're gonna do is grab it and then literally just boop and lay it down, and make sure really good, squish it down, flip it over, and smooth it out. Like physically, like smooth it to make sure there's no little wrinkles or pockets that will end up affecting the look of it. Now let this dry. Now is the time that you're going to fold this back and then put glue all up in this crevice right here. And the next step is pretty important, so I'd be sure to pay attention. So now once you've put glue all up in the crevice, you're going to fold it over and really make sure to run like a nail in there and really define the edge of where your crevice is. And that's just going to help further define the ear shape in the end, and it's just going to look a lot better. Yet again, make sure you're really smoothing it down before it dries, and it'll just make it look so much neater. Once this piece has dried, you're going to fold this over and put glue on the rest of this, all of this exposed area, except not on the sides. Don't put any glue on the sides. Just all of this exposed piece, put the glue down, and then again, just smooth it over before it dries. So now that everything is dry and everything's glued down, what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it over, and now you can see our ear. Now it's time to trim off this excess pieces, and I will just behind the scenes mark it out so you can get an idea for how much I'm going to cut off, so you can get an idea for how much you're going to cut off. This is how I'm going to cut it off. Make sure you don't leave way too much excess, otherwise when it folds over it's going to be crazy bulky. That's why up here I changed my mind to bring it down a little bit, but don't leave so little that you don't have a good amount to fold over. Now that we have it cut off all of the excess, we're going to cut slits into it so it looks almost like a piñata, so then we can fold it over without any bubbles. Yet again, I'm going to use my marker and mark out where I'm going to cut it, just so you get a better idea. But if you want to figure it out on your own, anytime that there's a roundage or a change, like right here, you're going to put a lot of slits right here, and then not a lot right here, because it's not a very much changing of movement, but a lot right here again, and then a little bit right here, and then a lot right here. Now you can see I have it marked where I like doing a little, at the tip of the ear, I like doing a little triangle piece right here, where these two pieces kind of branch into the sides, and then over here, where I put the little divot for the ear, I like putting one right there, because it just, and one right here too, helps so much. And then this entire piece down here, from here to here, we're going to be cutting off. But when you cut it off, make sure you don't cut it all the way to right there, otherwise you're going to be exposing some of this. You're going to cut it from right here with this back piece in mind, and it's going to give you the perfect amount. So now that I have all these pieces cut, and like I said, it looks a little bit like a piñata, we're going to start down here, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab our hot glue gun and just kind of sparsely put a little bit on these three pieces. I find it easier to just go in order. And we're going to start up here because it's the easiest, so you can get a better feel for what you're doing. And you're going to pull it tight and then fold it over and smooth really good, all before it dries. This piece too, pull it over, nice and tight, and then smooth, nice and good. And try not to leave crazy gaps in between because it can be a little bit more noticeable on the front side. And never fear to overlap or like bend over or anything, because once you flip it over, you can't even see it. And see, this is what I'm talking about of too much gaps. You're going to be able to see it. So I'm personally just going to fix that. But otherwise, and this is a reason why you don't cut all the way to the foam. I cut a little too close, and that makes it so you can tell. So make sure you leave a little bit of gappage between the felt and between your foam. Like, see, this is a good amount right here where there's just a teeny tiny bit, but it doesn't go all the way to the foam, because that was a mistake I made, and I hope you don't make it. Now this is a tricky part up here on the ears at the tip. So what you're going to do is I like starting with the edge of it up here at the Dorito. And from here, you're going to pull down real hard and really make sure those edges go in. Ooh, got a blister. See, because it's going to make a good point here. And then now on these other two pieces, it looks almost like ears right there. You're going to put glue right there and then really nicely glue it down and overlap it. Make sure it's tight on the other side. And if it gets really bulky right here, don't worry, you can cut it. I know my fingers are all up in the way, but you can cut this piece down in the future to make it less bulky. And you see then it becomes a nice, good straight line. I know it looks a little bit more rough than usual, but it's just so much harder to film. But that's what you're going to do, and I'm going to fix it off camera. There we go. I tucked it in a little bit, and look how nice and angled that is right there. And then from the back. And now we're just going to flip it over, and we're going to do the same exact thing on all these pieces where you just put a little bit of glue and fold it in. And see, I just did the same exact method of just folding it in along all the edges, and now look how nice and sleek that looks from the back. And now it is the dreaded time to cut it off. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our scissors, and we're just going to go it from above right here, not on this side because then you can cut too close. So we're doing it here so we have this as a sort of barrier to make sure that we don't go all the way over there. And now we have that bubble cut off, and this ear is done. So now we're going to do the same exact thing, but to this ear, and with a new little square felt. And once you finish felting the other one, you have fully completed your ears. And now they're ready to be glued onto a base of some sort. Now, if you're wondering, I want to make a different sizing of ears, I want them to look fully different, that's totally okay. You can use the same exact method and it's going to work the exact same. Just if you make fully rounded ears, you're going to have to do that same weird a ton of slits. It's kind of like when you're doing the eyes, to do that rounded, you have to do the specific cuts to make sure it perfectly goes around. And if you ever want to cover the backs, you could always just whatever lining you're putting on the inside of the mask, do it on the backs of the ears. Yeah, and bro, there's a piece of glue stuck to me. Other than that, that is the full tutorial. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Any other tutorials you wish to see, or any like painting tutorials or anything like that, just leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer you as quick as I can. That is all for today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to post a new one soon. Bye-bye!